Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Stepping Stones with Sheena. And today is lesson number 11. And today, the stepping stones we're going to talk about muscle activation techniques. I wrote it on the board, just a lot of times people don't know what it is. So it's MAT or muscle activation techniques. Today, I wanted to do um, this stepping stones because I do believe it is a very important part of anyone's life, be it you if you are a professional athlete, right to an everyday person doing everyday life stuff. MAT can be a very valuable tool. And without it, I know I do it as a career, but another thing, without it, um, I honestly don't know where I would be today. MAT has helped me in so many ways, shapes, and forms. Um, I beat chronic pain, which it's quite a long story. So why don't I just sort of give you the Cold Notes version of why I think MAT is a valuable tool. So I started running in about 2002, 2004. We can't remember exactly when, but I started running, and I always used to have, I'm going to say it, literally a pain in my butt. It was a sharp SI pain that always would radiate down my leg, but not a problem. I still muscled through, just the way you're supposed to do it when you're training for anything. So um, I used to just live with it. I used to schedule regular massages, and I used to see a couple other physiotherapist type and manual therapist type people. And yes, they did work, but it always came back. So the more I became more active and more in shape, it seemed like the more I needed. Um, so anyhow, with my husband being open to other techniques that were out there, a friend of his told him about MAT. So he came home and said, I think you should really check into it because you are in a lot of pain. So I made an appointment to go see what was going on. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't walk. So, anyhow, after one treatment, I was so shocked. I was one of the very fortunate ones. I came out of there feeling amazing. The pain that I had felt for years was gone. That doesn't always happen, but I was one of the lucky ones, and I said, hey, I got to try this again and again and again. So here I am. Fast forward this later. So it's 2016. So that was about 2004. I'm going to say 2004, 12 years ago. So what I have found since then that I realized I was treating my symptoms. So if I had a pain in my butt or a pain in my back, um, the treatments that I was going to seek were treating those areas. Now, fast forward to what I know now with muscle activation techniques. What happens is the body is such an amazing tool. Uh, it compensates for things you are unable to do. So after an MAT session, we found things such as my feet, the biomechanics in my feet weren't effective, that it was being absorbed in my hips, where my SI was really killing me, and that's why my bum always hurt, but that was being driven by my foot. And then later on, we figured out that I had herniated my spine a few, I can't, it was the Honolulu Marathon, so I think it was 2006, going back into my archives. And when I had herniated, no, that was San Diego, 2008, I ended up finding it's now my trunk, my spinal extension has in my thoracic spine, and my abdominal contractions have really contributed to that. So just because we found one thing doesn't mean that it always sticks with it. No. The body is an orchestra. It's just like you always have to tune up the guitar or the wind instruments so it sounds great with the rest of the orchestra. Your body is the exact same thing. So if you can imagine how many muscles there are in our entire body from head to toe, and they all have to work together so we can move effectively to whatever we do. That's that is why I love MAT. It's not we listen for the thing that sounds the worst and we fix it. We try to figure out why something doesn't work as effectively. So I'm going to just show you a couple, an example that perhaps maybe will be a little bit easier for you to understand. MAT is a neuromuscular treatment. It's a manual treatment, and what we do is we check your muscular contraction based on what you can't do. So we base our treatments on looking at your range of motion, and then we look at the thing that you can't do the most as a potential as there being a weakness. Doesn't mean that there is a weakness, but there is a potential for it. We look for the biggest elephant or the biggest asymmetry in your body. And then the other thing I just loved about MAT, it compares what you can do from your left side to your right side. It's not compared to the standard population because we are all not the same. So that's why MAT is great for all ages, all abilities of whomever. Whatever ailment you have, MAT could possibly help you because we're looking at you. We're not comparing you to the standard or the average person. That sunk in for me because in my book, I'm not average. Everybody's a little different. Okay, so here's what I want to basically give you the gist of what MAT is. Okay, so here is this block. We are going to call this a 100-pound block. Okay? Let's say this beam, let's call it a beam, is held up by 10 cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, let's put one here, 10. Okay, so each one of these guys are, if there's 10 things holding up this cable, that means that there is, you have to do math now, equals, if we have 10 of those, that means there is 10 pounds per cable holding up this beam. Okay? So far makes sense, right? Now, let's say something, this doesn't, that cable breaks. This cable stops working. This cable stops working. So we have 2, 4. And this cable. 2, 4, I want one more. Now, we have only 5 left. So now, if we only have 5 cables left that are working, holding up a 100-pound beam, that means how many pounds of force is going through each one of those? So if we have 100 pounds, that means there is 20 pounds per cable. Making sense? Now, my goodness. So we're ignoring it. We know that this is getting heavier at each cable, but we're going to ignore it. We're going to push through. Now, what happens? if we keep on ignoring them, and now there's only 2 left. What does that mean? That means there is 50 pounds of force going through those remaining cables. I hope this is starting to make sense. So with muscle activation, we look at, first of all, do you think this 50 pounds, this cable, it is tighter, or do you think it's looser? You bet. It is going to feel more tonicity. It's going to feel super tight. There won't be any give on that. It will be stretched out to its full max. And it is absorbing 50 pounds of pressure through one cable. So with muscle activation, let's look at this as a joint or a movement. Suppose you couldn't lift your arm. Okay, so if we could lift it all the way, that means there's 10 muscles moving this cable or this beam. And then we lost some muscles, maybe some muscles weren't weak or weren't working, so now we're down to 5. Oh, we can only lift to here. Now, oh my God, I can't even lift, and it hurts so much. It's so tight. So, the moral of this little thing, you can see tightness. Now, if we went and addressed it with traditional localized treatment, tightness, oh, we're going to massage this or rub this to make it feel better. We're going to stretch it already. This is already absorbing a ton of force. It potentially could be very, very dangerous for someone to stretch that cable. So with muscle activation, what we do is we try to find the thing that is limiting, and then I try to identify the muscles that aren't working correctly, and we activate them. So our job is to add more cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Our job is to add more cables to take it back to its original movement. Now, saying that, in the perfect scenario, as long as the tissue, this is tissue, if it isn't damaged, potentially we can get someone back on their feet with all their muscles activating with proper timing and contraction. And they should feel great. The second you have more of your muscles working for you, less force is going through each one of these. I see this often for hamstrings. People will complain about tight hamstrings and they can't figure it out. Well, guess what? If your hamstrings are pretty tight, chances are there's extra stress going through those hamstrings. So stretching them may not be the answer. You could actually be harming or stressing the tissue even more. If someone waits or ignores or tries to muscle through it, sometimes what can happen is when we are treating someone, when I mean we, I mean a muscle activation specialist that has gone through the certification program with the Greg Roshkoff MAT program. What happens is potentially not all 10 will come back at that time. It may take longer because some of these, the tissue may have been damaged, or perhaps their ability to absorb force or their tolerance is less than others. So our job as muscle contraction specialists or analysts is to raise your tolerance so you can handle more force. This is basically, we are handling or absorbing force every single day, even if you are not active. Believe it or not, gravity is always going through our body. We are absorbing force all the time. There is energy around us. Believe it or not, even though this is a muscular modality of treating the body. From a personal standpoint, I have felt when the more active my tissue is, the more I can handle other stresses. Because force, like working out, running, is stress. And stress on your body, if it's physical, if you have more muscles working for you, the chances of you actually absorbing more forces mentally. I've felt it with my digestive system, my eyesight. I know it sounds weird, but my eyesight gets better. But the digestion, oh my goodness, it feels night and day difference when I have MAT, and I can breathe better, sleep better. I feel better. Instead of feeling like the weight of the world or operating with less muscle function, I actually operate with more muscle function, and I feel better. I feel stronger. I feel happier. I feel like I can do almost anything I want to do. So I hope that has really opened your eyes. It's not that I want to say that other treatments are bad, but MAT addresses the whole body and not just the local symptoms. That I believe, as an MAT practitioner, I believe the more I can teach you about your body and how to understand it, the better you'll take care of yourself. I got into this because I don't have children. Not that having children is a guarantee that someone's going to take care of you, but I got into this because I would like to take care of myself and my husband's for as long as we can. I have seen what senior citizens have gone through, and it's almost like it's too late at that point. My goal for my life is to prevent this from happening. I truly believe that this can slow down aging. I truly believe that this can just keep us away from having surgeries. I truly believe it. I really hope that you would consider trying muscle activation techniques. But as promised with the Stepping Stones by Sheena, I'd like to give you 5 tips why MAT can really enhance your life, as well as your health, as well as your body, as well as mentally. First thing, tip number 1, MAT is not a quick fix, but it is for the long term. So the tip is to be consistent. It doesn't mean sporadic. It's just like anything. You need to practice consistency. So tip 1, be consistent with your MAT treatments, and then you don't have to spend as much money. Honest. You may have to invest more in the front, but then it's just maintenance. And then we start to give you movement patterns, which actually will reinforce what you do on the table. It's really awesome. Tip number 2 is hydration. A hydrated muscle contracts better. So tip number 2, be sure that you are hydrated. On that note, I better have a drink of water. Yes, be hydrated. Tip number 3, muscles that are rested and performed or used. So you need to have a balance with your activity, not just go, go, go. You also need to respect it and relax them. So what I mean by relax is maybe just going for a walk instead of an intense run. That is very important on your body to have it contract efficiently. Tip number 4, if something hurts, try not to target the hurt unless it's trauma. So if you sprain your ankle, that is literally a trauma. That is localized. That is different. But if you've been working out and you've been running on the treadmill and your shoulder hurts and you ignore it, but you've been running, but your shoulder hurts, try not to specifically treat the local pain, but try to think outside the box and see, what am I doing? Something as simple as changing your runners could potentially save your shoulder when it's something like your runners that are the problem. Tip number 5, please call me. Um, Send me an email at Sheena@Health Matters Fitness, and I would love to call you. And I have a new program where we can schedule a phone call because I have to schedule that into my life. And I'd like to just talk to you a little bit more about it because I got into this because I want to help people. I believe every single person on this earth should try MAT. It's amazing. I am 52, and yes, I have aches and pains, but I now have a tool that I can help myself. Initially, I'm going to have to treat you, but then eventually I will give you tools to help you understand what's going on in your body. I sort of see myself as your mechanic to keep you healthy and moving for the rest of your life. I hope that helps, and I hope this helps you understand MAT. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. All right, I want you to have a great day, and we will talk to you again. Take care.